Chapter 11. The next morning at breakfast, Ellie saw the new memo on the bulletin board and asked him what it meant. "It means he's going to have a very small operation," Lewis said. "He'll probably have to stay over at the vet's for one night afterward, and when he comes home, he'll stay in our yard and not want to roam around so much."
"Or across the road?"
Ellie asked. She may be only 5, Lewis thought, but she's sure no slouch. "Or across the road," he agreed.
"Yay!"
Ellie said, and that was the end of the subject. Lewis, who had been prepared for a bitter and perhaps hysterical argument about church being out of the house for even one night, was mildly stunned by the ease with which she had acquiesced. One moment. Apologies, I had to make sure my puppy wasn't doing anything naughty. And he realized how worried she must have been. Perhaps Rachel had not been entirely wrong about the effect the pet cemetery had on her. Rachel herself, who was feeding Gage his breakfast egg, shot him a grateful, approving look, and Lewis felt something loosen in his chest. The look told him that the chill was over. This particular hatchet had been buried, forever, he hoped. Later, after the big yellow school bus had gobbled Ellie up for the morning, Rachel came to him, put her arms around his neck, and kissed his mouth gently. "You were really sweet to do that," she said, "and I'm sorry I was such a bitch." Lewis returned her kiss, feeling a little uncomfortable nonetheless. It occurred to him that the "I'm sorry I was such a bitch" statement, while by no means a standard, was not exactly something he'd never heard before either. It usually came up after Rachel had gotten her way. Gage, meanwhile, had toddled unsteadily over to the front door and was looking out the lowest pane of the glass at the empty road.
"Bus,"
he said, hitching nonchalantly at his sagging diapers.
"Early bus."
"He's growing up fast," Lewis said. Rachel nodded. "Too fast to suit me, I think." "Wait until he's out of diapers," Lewis said. "Then he can stop." She laughed, and it was all right between them again. Completely all right. She stood back, made a minute adjustment to his tie, and looked him up and down critically. "Do I pass the muster, Sarge?" he asked. "You look very nice." "Yeah, I know. But do I look like a heart surgeon? A $200,000 a year man?"
"No, just old Lou Creed,"
she said and giggled. "The rock and roll animal." Lewis glanced at his watch. "The rock and roll animal has to put on his boogie shoes and go on," he said. "Are you nervous?" "Yeah, a little." "Don't be," she said. It's $67,000 a year for putting on ace bandages, prescribing for the flu and for hangovers, giving girls the pill. Don't forget the crab and louse lotion. Louis smiled. One of the things that had surprised him on his first tour of the infirmary had been the supplies of 𝘠𝘠, which seemed to him enormous, more fitted to an army-base infirmary than to one on a middle-sized university campus. Miss Charlton, the head nurse, had smiled cynically. Off-campus apartments in the area are pretty tacky. You'll see. He supposed he would. Have a good day, she said, and kissed him again, lingeringly. But when she pulled away, she was mock-stern. And for Christ's sake, remember that you are an administrator, not an intern or second-year resident. Yes, doctor, Louis said humbly, and they both laughed again. For a moment, he thought of asking, was it Zelda, babe? Is that what's got under your skin? Is that the zone of low pressure? Zelda and how she died? But he wasn't going to ask her that, not now. As a doctor, he knew a lot of things, and while the fact that death was just as natural as childbirth might be the greatest of them, the fact that you don't monkey with a wound that has finally started to heal was far from the least of them. So instead of asking, he only kissed her again and went out. It was a great start, a good day. Maine was putting on a late summer show. The sky was blue and cloudless, the temperature pegged at an utterly perfect 72 degrees. Rolling to the end of the driveway and checking for traffic, Louis mused that so far he hadn't seen so much as a trace of the fall foliage that was supposed to be spectacular. But he could wait. He pointed the Honda Civic they had picked up as a second car toward the university and let it roll. Rachel could call the vet this morning. They would get church fixed, and that would put this whole nonsense of pet cemeteries. It was funny how that misspelling got into your head and began to seem right. And death, fears behind them. There was no need to be thinking about death on a beautiful September morning like this one. Louis turned on the radio and dialed until he found the Ramones belting out Rockaway Beach. He turned it up and sang along, not well, but with lusty enjoyment.